Are you somebody who spends impulsively and then you later wonder what the heck you were thinking when you bought the thing that you like literally can't even stand now? That has definitely been me in the past, and I have learned to turn it around. And today I thought I would share some of the money management tips that I have developed to compensate for my impulsivity and my ADHD that has really helped me cultivate a life of freedom and flexibility where I can travel and work where I want and do the kind of work that I want. It hasn't always been that way, but I've gotten here now. And today in this video, I'm going to share all the tips that I have figured out for myself that you might not be thinking about. So, with that, let's get into it. Now, the one thing that this video is not going to contain is any advice around budgets, spreadsheets, or any other sort of personal finance tool. It's not that I have anything against them. I personally use mint.com to track my money. But the reason why I don't want to emphasize tools is that there's no tool or software that's going to get to the core reason of why we overspend in the first place. So let me break this down for you. I'm going to oversimplify it, but you'll get the idea. When we see something we want that triggers an emotion, it's either something that we want to move towards or away from. Like we don't want to walk around without pants on, so we buy pants. We do want to look like a cool stud, so we buy a fancy car. All of these things are rooted in emotion around what we want and how we want to be perceived in the world. When we make decisions that are emotionally triggered, that comes from the amygdala. And when that area is active, it shuts down access to the prefrontal cortex, which is our smart decision making area of the brain, which should be telling us you need to prioritize rent over those designer boots. Walk away. But it's not available. So we make the impulsive emotional decision. No matter how fancy you get with your spreadsheets or whatever tool or budget you have, in those moments when you're making decisions from an emotional place, they are not even going to be part of the decision because you are thinking from your emotional center. So, what I like to do with my clients is understand their core values because when we can understand what's truly important to you, then we can come up with emotional triggers that will counterbalance that impulsivity to spend on things we don't need. I'll give you an example. My highest value is freedom and flexibility. Right now, I'm recording this video from a rental in Scottsdale, Arizona. We're going to be doing a tour of the West Coast for the next little while, and I can work remotely. I can do my job absolutely anywhere. I was so motivated to get to this position because this is so important to me. And because of that, any decision where I was going to be spending a significant amount of money, I was always able to pause and ask myself, does this move me towards my value of freedom and flexibility or away from it? That's also the reason why I was so charged when I found out about the FIRE movement. That stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. I have another video on that I will link here. I think the FIRE movement is an amazing opportunity for ADHDers to get emotionally charged in a way that's going to help them with impulsive spending. Because the idea of financial independence and retiring early from a job that you hate is so juicy and so emotionally charged that that is what your amygdala will pick up rather than the designer pair of boots that you really, really think you look cute in, even though you probably would. Freedom and flexibility or early retirement or something like that is going to feel a lot better in the moment. Now, early retirement might be a long way off for you if you're in your 20s or not, because some people retire in their 30s. But if you can have that long term vision with some shorter term goals that you can really emotionally attach to, it's going to help you pause in the moment when you're about to make a really dumb financial decision and help you think through the decision a little more rationally so that you can prioritize what's most important to you. That might be an oversimplification of the process, but the concept is true and it is the one thing that changed everything for me. I was also very emotionally adverse to debt because when I first got out of university, I had crippling student loans. I was in a job that I hated, but I had no alternatives or choices because I was so in debt. So I felt choked. So I felt like a caged animal until I was able to get those student loans paid off. So I had a visceral emotional connection to money from an early age. And then later on in life, when I learned about the FIRE movement, which would accelerate my ability to be free and have flexibility, I was all in, and that further changed my money habits so that I have never had a money problem since my early 20s. I have always been very good with money. That is not a natural thing for me, but because of that emotional connection I have to my highest value, it has changed the game for me. So, with that in mind, the next thing I would highly recommend you do is get rid of any triggers in your environment that make you want to buy, like your favorite retailers that send you emails about big sales that they're having for clothes you don't need, or even scrolling through Instagram where that cute little fashion blogger has an amazing little outfit that you just have to clickety click and buy, but you don't need it. So, when you really think strategically about setting up your environment so that you are not emotionally triggered to spend, you will realize that it's really not that hard to not spend money. You just need to be aware of where those impulses are coming in and cut those babies out at the root. The next thing I'm going to recommend that you do is just cut the magical thinking. I don't know about you, but sometimes I negotiate with myself when I really, really want something. I want these designer boots, so I'm just not going to go out for dinner for the rest of the year. And it's February. Come on. We both know that's not going to happen. So, being realistic with yourself, having an accountability buddy around spending or something like that who's going to really gut check whether or not you are going to be able to maintain that negotiation with yourself is a really good thing. I have an entire video up here about magical thinking. It's something that all of us ADHDers do from time to time because we have an idea in our mind and we have an outcome that we want. But everything else in the middle is like the black hole of execution and consequences that we're not really thinking about. The next thing I would recommend that you do is face the shame that you have around money. When I graduated from university and I had over $30,000 in student loans, it was crippling and it was embarrassing. But the more I ignored my financial situation, the more I made poor choices because, again, there was an emotional trigger there. I just wanted out of it so badly. And I was also so frustrated that I was working a job that I hated that I would buy myself things to self soothe. And it was just a big old nasty cycle where I would continue to spend impulsively because I was trying to make myself feel better about all of the financial shame that I had. So once I was able to face that shame and really look at my financial situation and create a step-by-step plan to get out of it, not thinking about how hard it's going to be, but what is the next step and the step after that and the step after that, you will be surprised that it just starts to snowball into good habits and better momentum around saving money and spending more wisely. Now, once you have faced your money situation and you've started to work through any sort of shame or negative feelings you have around your financial situation, you've gotten rid of any sort of spending triggers and you've gotten really clear on what your priorities and values are so that you can emotionally connect to the place you want to get to, then it's time to start building better money habits. Personally, I don't budget because I hate budgeting. It gives me highs. But I do track my spending very closely. I use the app mid.com. It's totally free. And I can see on a daily, monthly, weekly basis how much I'm spending. And I can stay very close to that. And if I need to adjust my spending, I do. But to be honest, I don't often overspend because my value is freedom and flexibility, which means I'm a minimalist when it comes to stuff. I don't have a lot of designer things or expensive personal items. I prefer to travel like I am right now. So for me, that's the area where I invest the majority of my money as opposed to buying more stuff. The last thing I would recommend you do is find some money mentors, not necessarily the financial gurus of the world. Instead, check out the vast amount of personal finance bloggers out there. People like you and me who are making great progress on their own financial situations and sharing their journey. I'm not suggesting you should take advice from them, but definitely take inspiration from them. Reading personal finance bloggers when I was going through my FIRE journey was the one thing that kept me emotionally invested and connected to that goal. Because let's face it, a FIRE journey can take 10, 20 years. It didn't take that long for me because I was already older when I started it. But no matter where you are, there's somebody out there who's on a similar financial journey. I can almost guarantee that you are going to connect with and that has a similar money philosophy to you. And you're going to be so inspired by their journey that it's going to help you with yours. So some of my personal money favorites: Mr. Money Mustache. He's not exactly the most relatable guy, but he's really entertaining. I love 1500 Days, The Purple Life, Our Rich Journey. They're here on YouTube. Budgets Are Sexy, Stacking Benjamins. They've got a great podcast. There's just so many people out there that are sharing their stories around money. And I think that's such an empowering thing to connect with. And wrapping up, one final thing that I'm going to remind you of: what you focus on grows. So if you're focusing on the debt that you have, the lack of income that you have, that will continue to be big and obvious to you. I am not suggesting that your money problems are magically going to go away if you just ignore them. But you do want to focus your time, energy, resources, and focus on the positive, on the journey that you're on the progress that you're making, on new opportunities to make money or save money, or anything that's going to inspire you to move towards your ultimate vision of where you want to go with your finances. So remember that. Don't focus on the lack. Focus on the possibility, the opportunities, the small wins, anything that's in the direction of positive momentum is where you want to keep your eye. And so, on that note, guys, I hope you thought this was helpful. I appreciate you being here. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe for this video because I will be coming back next week with more ADHD friendly goodness. And until then, I'll see you in the next video.